cultures within the film world and those closed meetings where you're meeting with a producer or a movie star producer, and also the faculty of your own business. So the movie business, its beating heart and soul is in Los Angeles. All the major studios are in Los Angeles. When I look at the roles that I have had in different businesses, and I think about the longest serving part of my career at Universal Pictures, 20 years of my life, you think about the energy. It's complex, right? They're complex, big businesses. But a lot of the decisions, to your point, a lot of those decisions stem from a filmmaker meeting, a meeting of typically a US set of senior executives and a movie star producer, and you might be there as part of the international team as a part player to that. The feelings that you have in the room are, you've got to get pretty comfortable pretty quickly with, that's a movie star, right? That's a movie star. That's a really important producer. And you also get to see your US colleagues operating at the highest level, because it's more commonplace for them. Doesn't mean they don't get nervous, but equally their job is to try and convince the creatives, the producer and the actors, to actually help them in the journey of marketing the movie, distributing the movie, helping with the partnerships for America. They're very much focused on America. And over time, that then changed into, how do we become a good global team? Hence the inclusion of some international folks in the room. So those rooms are really important. Now, as one of the handful of people that's traveled to the LA meets to meet with those folks, and you're sat in the room, you can't be a passenger, right? Because if you think about not just the carbon footprint of getting there, or even the moment to bask in the glory or the light of being in those meetings, you're nervous. Why are you nervous? Well, first of all, movie studios have, like any complex business, your energies are focused probably in three ways, most likely three ways. First of all, as a department head that I'm managing upwards to that LA-based studio executive that have been around for a long time. And I've been around for 20 years. They've been around for longer, and they've seen so many different iterations of movies and scenarios. So you're always managing upwards. They're the same people that are on the email chains that when you're asking for more marketing budget, or here's a challenge, or here's a problem, that they're trying to solve. So you're not really yourself, the most natural version of yourself, right? In a room like that where you're thinking, these are people I manage up to.
You become an actor.
You kind of have to. You kind of have to really think about, what's the performance of what do I need to do? What's the fewest, smartest words that I can choose? And that's a bit of a challenge for me, I'm not going to lie. Because I take into the room the other relationships that I have in the job that I'm holding, right? So think about the energy also going downwards to the teams that I'm leading. And the team would have put so much work in for me to be at those meetings. So the preparation of comparative movies, or things that Instagram's doing or TikTok's doing, or any of the data digital trends that we want to try and talk about. Or maybe let's not do another intro for a cinema chain. Let's do something that TikTok have never seen before. And you're holding that idea in your head and you think, well, I can't let my team down, so I've got to represent it well. Not only representing it well for your team, but also managing outwards, right? From when you're in that meeting, you're managing outwards from the teams that you're leading that are not your direct reports. These are the people that are in the 50 international markets that have to release the movie. So you're thinking, how do I respond and respect them and make sure that we can create enough focus on us to help with that? And that could be the agencies, or it could be the marketing director of South Korea or Japan or Mexico, very different cultural needs. So as you're proposing your question, and nothing's really pre-prepared, for these meetings with filmmakers, it's quite an open space.
It's not prepared.
It's not prepared. There is a degree of staging, but actually it's a creative industry. Yes, of course, it's a business, but creators want to also...
So you need to improvise.
You do.
Okay.
And you're thinking, you may have some notions of some ideas. you would like to ask, but you've got to wait for the moment. And as soon as the conversation starts to head towards the direction, it might not be a perfect fit, but a fit that's a semi-awkward fit is better than no fit. Yeah. Imagine not making that opportunity, taking that question, asking something. I think it's really important that you can lean in and take the risk. Creatives have to take a risk. And in those wholly unnatural situations where you're sat with the president of a studio, their board that's very impressive, and filmmakers, and you're a guy that's come in from London, jet lagged, sort of 3 hours of sleep, you've got to take the risk, because it means you can start that relationship, and you can ask a question. And it's always good to ask a question, not make a statement. Imagine traveling that far to then go and make a statement that you make poorly. A question is a much easier route in, because it starts a conversation.
Yeah, and you keep the card a bit closer to your chest. I remember a meeting when I was, it's the beginning. I was in Munich for Allianz, and I'd been a CEO for 6 years, but a regional, local CEO is totally different when you have a board member, and the stakes are much higher than your team, right? So, and we're developing a global strategy for steering employee benefit. And we went in a room, there was several board members, and there was the adversaries, So if you go in there, there's always this. If you have a team of people, in whichever level it is, you tend to have people who have different views, different angle. There has to be, of course, they have to be behind the vision, but they have to be different. And if they always agree, then there is no competition between ideas, and it's flop. Basically, you can get it right, but you can get it wrong. But if the competition between ideas and between people, as long as it's healthy, it's actually it can grow forward. And this was the case there. The room was people which are the board of the holding. So there was the people were different views, different angles, different responsibilities. And when the subject I was working for came on the table, we were prepared. We're a team of people on our side, but on the other side, they were prepared as well, and they were on the opposite side, let's say, not necessarily completely anti the idea, but they didn't want to have the steering in the way that we proposed. So they came with their point and their argument, and what we needed to do is to get out of that meeting with a positive outcome, which happened, by the way. So, but everybody played a different role. I was playing the guy who was the project manager to implement, to develop the strategy and get the compromise. My boss was there more like the bumper, I would say. And I found that amazing, because there was a moment in time where a gentleman with the highest responsibility took actually a step back from the table, circled around the table, and start writing on the board to be the mediator. And at the end of the day, if everybody has his role, and it worked. To come back to your point earlier, you can't just step back. You can't chicken out of this one.
You got to represent.
You have to be there. You have to be very clear, and you can't be too long. If you're too long, you just put them asleep, or they say is a joker or whatever it is. But the strategy has to be clearly understood, and if you know your place, the others will team up with you to get to the optimal result, which is something I
think that's really
interesting.
Making sure. I mean, time management in a meeting like that, because it is. I've been there, right, where somebody has an idea and then it perpetuates into something else. But there's a point in time that the airtime becomes stale airtime. Yeah. And you've got to respect, I think, when you're in a meeting, a complex meeting, you've got to respect the airtime that you've gone in, you've had the opportunity to say your piece, support a project, but also be open-minded enough to support somebody else's thoughts as well. But also criticize thoughts. I think to your point, competition, right? There's only so much resource, money, time, effort, all of those things, and you have to really lean in and get to the right ones, and resilience, right? Because when you're working on movies, it's a 7-year process.